Welcome back to Restoring Home, where we discuss marriage, parenting, and faith. And tonight we're going to focus on faith and a little on parenting because the topic we're discussing is learning to read Hebrew, the first steps, which will be great for adults and for your children, and in my case, for my grandchildren. And so our guest tonight is Grant Luton, who is going to talk to us some about material he's prepared, a book and video series called Hasty Hebrew.
Yes.
And I'm excited to hear about this because I have 9, a 10th on the way, grandchildren who, and I'm sure more will come after that. And I'm anxious. I've been looking for a resource for them that they can grasp even as little people, that their moms can use in their homeschooling or dad, mom can use sitting around and just weekly going through some lessons together to learn to read God's Word in its original form. So tell us a little bit, first of all, before we get into all that, tell us a little bit about yourself, because not everybody knows you. Who you are and how you came into this whole Hebrew world.
Well, my name is Grant, of course, and I'm the congregational leader of Beth Tikkun Messianic Fellowship. And Beth Tikkun was born out of that initial trip to Israel back in the early 90s, about 91, I think it was. And when I was there, it just birthed in me this burning desire to learn Hebrew and also to learn about Judaism, because I've been trying to figure out what is the Christian life supposed to look like. And I read the New Testament, I just couldn't find the details. And I had friends of all different denominations, and they say, well, you live it this way or this way or this way. Now, the New Testament gave me the moral standards for being a Christian, but what are the details about how you dress and how you eat and how you arrange your calendar? And of course, it's all right up at the front of the Bible and the Torah. But to learn about Judaism, the faith of my Savior, and to learn how it had gone off the rails and what was it still applicable today. So anyways, there was 2 tracks. I was learning about Judaism, but also learning Hebrew, which is just an absolute joy. And I had made a couple running starts trying to learn Hebrew over previous years, but they were total failures. Because if you pick up a standard Hebrew grammar, so you want to learn Hebrew, and I had no one to teach me, it was just me and a book. They'll just give you the name of each letter. This is the sound it makes. And you just have to memorize. And you can't learn any words because you don't know the vowel signs yet. There are no vowel letters in Hebrew. So after you learn the letters, and you're trying to memorize all this and hold it in your mind, then they teach you the vowel signs. Now you have to memorize those vowel signs. And then they say, oh, and by the way, some of the letters changed shape at the end. So there are 5 of those letters. So you're trying to juggle all of these letters and vowel signs, and you still have not read a single Hebrew word. And then if you can get through that boot camp, then you can start learning how to put some letters together and vowels and make words. And I thought, there's just got to be a better way. And along the way, I was asked to teach some Hebrew classes to kids and adults. And over the years, what I did evolved into what I call Hasty Hebrew. And it's a very thin workbook, and I made 4 videos sitting right here at this table. And those are available for free on YouTube. But this is the video course workbook that goes along with them. It's incredibly unconventional, unorthodox, and as I had said earlier, any Hebrew scholar would look at this and be horrified at my approach. But I taught junior high school for 18 years, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and after a while you learn how to take the complex and simplify it so they can digest it. So that's what I try to do with this. And several years in a row, excuse me, I would teach this to people at Beth Tikkun, and I would tell them, when you come to take the course, bring a child with you to help you, because children pick this up very quickly.
Yeah.
And I did it over a course of 3 nights, 3 evenings for about an hour and a half each. And by the end of that 3rd evening, if you're keeping up and doing the homework, then you're reading any Hebrew word in the Bible, pronouncing it. Now, you still need to learn some vocabulary and grammar. But by the end of that third session, you can read the first 5 verses of Genesis and understand what you're reading. Then I added in a fourth session where we would go through certain passages in the scriptures and begin to learn some of the things that reveal themselves only in the Hebrew, and that's a lot of fun. So all 4 of those sessions are in the workbook. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the approach I take that's so unorthodox. We don't start by learning the letters. We start by learning the vowel sounds. I'm not interested in people learning the names of the letters, the order in which they come, or even the names of the vowels. Those things you can learn later, but they don't help you read the Hebrew. So we start with the vowels, and it takes 5 minutes to learn all the vowel sounds, all the symbols and the sounds they make. People never believe me when I tell them this, but we'll actually time it. I'll do it with a group, and 5 minutes later, they know all the vowel sounds. And what we do is then take those vowel symbols, and we use them with English letters. So they get proficient at using the vowel symbols. So we use English consonants and put the vowel symbols around them. So they're making words and reading words using English letters.
Can you give us a little sample of that?
Sure. I might have some, well, there's a blank page here. And I don't know how well this will show up on the camera, but I've got some rectangles, and under the rectangles, I've got the various vowel symbols. And we've learned
these dots and things are the vowel
the
symbols?
dots and the dashes. In Hebrew, there are no letters that represent vowels. They're just consonants. And sometime in the early Middle Ages, the rabbis were concerned that people forget how to read Hebrew and insert the vowel sounds between the consonants as they should. So a rabbi came up with a system of dots and dashes above and below the letters to represent the vowels. And you're going to laugh when you see this, but the way we learn the vowel symbols is by learning these pictures, which any child can learn. They're very simple. And we slowly begin to replace the pictures with the dots and the dashes. And you can't see the picture very well, but it's still there, until finally all you have are just the symbols. The pictures go away, and what you're left with are the dots and dashes that the pictures represent. And again, 5 minutes to go through this. So then we'll practice putting English consonants in here. So if I took the letter T, this would be ta, tu, te, ta, te, to, t. Okay? And we can start to make words. And I'll put some things on the screen to practice, and in the videos you'll see these.
Can I interrupt you here?
Sure.
Because I just saw one of those work for me. It just did. Back here, I notice you have this picture, which
Yes.
is an ape,
Yeah.
and has two dots for the eyes.
Yeah. Ape
So
eyes.
you take away the picture of the ape, and you just remember that means
A.
A.
Yes.
The sound A for A.
Right.
And over here, you have the 2 dots. You said that is T, so it's Te.
Ta, a, te.
Te.
Right.
Yeah. 'Cause there's the-
Yeah, so you have ape eyes, A sound, and eat your pea. There's a plate with a P on the middle of it. Eat the pea, so that's an E sound. Eggs in a nest, that's the sound. Oops, I fell down the stairs. Ooh sound. And of course, these are tongue depressors. That's your epiglottis. We say ah. Oh, my head hurts. So that's the O sound. And this is a stoplight. There's no vowel. It's just a placeholder. How long does it take? See, you've probably already learned the Hebrew vowels, just looking at that one
That is
page.
great.
So we practiced
I struggled
them.
with that. That was so
I-
hard to
well,
keep
so-
that straight.
I've had so many people say, I just can't learn the vowels. It's like, we'll start with that. That's the easiest part.
Oh, no.
So after we do that, and then I summarize everything here. What we do is I then take half the Hebrew letters. I don't take them in order. I take the ones that look alike. Who cares what order they come in? You can learn that later. But it's not important when you just want to jump in and learn how this works. So I take these 3 letters. These are 3 different Hebrew letters, but they all look very similar. And so we put them in a box. So we learn these individually. I remember when I was learning Hebrew, this is the 5th letter, so I remember that makes a sound. And then I go on to the 6th and the 7th. And when I get to the 8th, well, wait a minute, that looks just like the 5th. So now I've got to go back and remember that's and then you get to the end, the 22nd letter, it's like, well, there's another one that looks like these two. And I've got to learn that's a T sound. Well, why not learn them all together? And here's some of the unorthodox things we do. We all dried our hands at a heater that's on a wall, a hand dryer, right? So this is the hand dryer for a hand dryer. Now you can imagine the air blowing out. This one's a clogged hand dryer. It's a sound. Huh, huh. And since the hand dryer is clogged, use the towel bar. And this is the towel bar. So, ta. If you memorize the pictures, so we drill on these, we just go back and forth. And every time we learn a letter, we then practice that letter with each of our vowels that we now know. And then this is the really fun part. Every time we learn a letter, we take it and the letters we've learned before, and we make English words using Hebrew letters and Hebrew vowels. So as you practice, if you're saying it right, you'll recognize what you're saying. So we have all kinds of English words that everyone would know, and we write these out using Hebrew letters, Hebrew vowels.
Great. That's genius. That'll help.
So it's very natural the way you go through it. And if there's any information that is not necessary for learning how to read Hebrew, we ignore that information. We just don't want to clutter up our time learning things you can learn later. The names of the letters, the order in which they go, the names of the vowels. You don't need to know that to read Hebrew. And then we'll practice reading real Hebrew words, but we'll take biblical names, Hebrew names, right out of the Bible, and we're reading those. In the second lesson, we do the second half of the alphabet. In the third session, we put it all together, plus a few other details of pronunciation. And at the end of that, we start reading the first 5 verses of Genesis.
Oh, right.
And it's just great fun. And people just light up because what made no sense a few minutes ago now is making sense. And it's wonderful watching the students just come alive as they begin to recognize things that were just gibberish to them not too long before.
And the videos introduce each of the 4, or lead you through the 4. There's 4 chapters in this, right?
Just look up Hasty Hebrew on YouTube, and the 4 videos will come up. Right. And you can watch them by yourself, but with the workbook, you can do the exercises.
Yeah. So really, it's good to get the workbook so you can sit there. It's all drawn out. It's all there. And I see some of the exercises in here that I know you need to do the exercises.
Yes.
You can't just listen in.
Right.
There's quite a bit in. There's a lot in here. It looks like a thin book. There's a lot in there. I know it's a lot of material.
But it's not overwhelming.
No. There's the one that I began with is about 5 times that.
Right.
And I took forever to learn those vowels. And I still struggle with some of them, but I can see those little pictures. I've got it.
Yeah.
I've got it now. That's so helpful.
Well, we think in pictures. We tend to think in pictures anyway, and especially children. And so let's use that God-given ability that we have and apply it to this.
I think you said when we were talking earlier about this that at the end there's a book you'll refer people to that's for more advanced going after this.
All this does is it prepares a person so they can now look at a Hebrew letter and vowels and they can pronounce the word. And that equips them so that they can pick up any Hebrew grammar and just really jump into the deep end and begin to learn it. Because as I say in the introduction to this, that I'd made several running starts at trying to learn Hebrew and I couldn't get through the alphabet. It was just, it just kind of became meaningless. And it's so frustrating. So my goal here is to take all the frustration out of learning how to pronounce a Hebrew word. And because really it's not complicated at all. And it seems like some of the textbooks out there, they try to make it complicated and difficult. I don't know why. But I guess I spent so much time with middle school kids, I kind of think like one. Maybe that's it.
Well, now kids are already full of things to do.
Yeah.
They like video, and they like games, and they like fun. This doesn't sound like, I know you have videos with it, but it's probably not going to be their kind of videos, the kids' kind. And for adults, maybe we can stick with it. But my question is, how do we motivate? Do you have some thoughts on how to motivate people, or what motivated you to want to push through and to learn this? What insights, or what can you give us to help motivate kids or adult parents or anybody to get into Hebrew?
Well, several things. For one thing, kids love to be able to do something and know something their parents don't. When I first put the mock-up of this workbook together and started doing the videos, I gave one to a little girl, 10 years old, from Beth Tiku, and I said, she was interested in Hebrew. I said, here, why don't you try this? And I saw her a week later, and she was reading Hebrew words and writing them, and her parents are amazed because she knows things that they don't, and kids love that. They love to be able to teach the parents. Another thing, kids love to see their name in Hebrew. And if they have a biblical name, it's wonderful when they can recognize it and they can write it, they can read it in the Hebrew, and they don't have to get very far into the course, and they'll be seeing that. Now, if the kids are part of a Messianic congregation where they're including Hebrew phrases like the Shema, or they're singing Ma Tovu and some of the prayers and the things they hear and they see in the Siddur, now to be able to read it, to take what's already familiar and begin to read it in the original language. There's something thrilling about that. But I think most of all, this is Lashon Kodesh. This is the holy language. This is the language of angels. This is the language that God spoke when he spoke the creation into existence. So there's something about this language hardwired into our spirits. And children somehow tap into that, because it's not like they're learning something new so much as discovering something very ancient that's already right there in them. And so the Spirit of God that animates their bodies is the same Spirit that created this language and spoke this language to bring the creation into existence. So there's a very deep thing going on here. And it's a wonderful thing to watch. So
I know in our earlier in the congregation I worked with, I had part of my responsibility was to work with the kids, the littlest, the younger ones. I think primarily because I could control the crowd, and the moms were kind of pulling their hair out because they couldn't get control of that group, so they turned them over to me. And one of the things that I found that was really helpful is sometimes I just had a piece of paper, sometimes I had a dry erase board, but I would draw a Hebrew letter, an Aleph, a Beit, would just draw the letter out, and as I did, I told a story about it. I said, let me tell you a story, and I would draw it out, and because all of the letters have a background to them, they're all pictures, and so when I, for example, Beit, as I was drawing it out, I would say Beit is a house. And then we'd draw, here's the roof and the walls and the floor and all that kind of thing. And so we'd tell the story about that, and sometimes put words together, drawings together. So you use an example of Aleph, which is the first letter. It means master. And so I drew that, and then Beit is the house, and I would say Aleph, and Beit would say Av, and they mean father. And who's the head of the home, who's mastering home?
Master of the house, father.
So I said these pictures, and then I gave them copies of those letters. If they were really little kids, they would just color. And if they were a little bit older, I said, let's see if you can make your own letters. And I kept their attention, and these are kids who did not value education at all, especially on a Wednesday night or Sunday evening when we were sitting together. They didn't want to do anything but go play, but we kept their attention for a while.
That's great. Well, you know, if you only learn how to pronounce the words, you learn the letters, and if you can look up a Hebrew word then in a Hebrew dictionary, a Bible dictionary, that is a huge step. And I'm talking about adults who want to do a word study. They want to learn the Bible. There are all kinds of things, Greek dictionaries that you can look up Greek words in, and that's not very difficult because the Greek alphabet's very similar to our English alphabet. But when it comes to the Hebrew, which is almost 3/4 of the Bible, people are just lost. So just learning the alphabet and the vowel signs and how to pronounce a word allows you then to do a word study. If I can give an example, I remember as a young man, I was reading through the Bible, and I know there's the Noah's Ark, A-R-K, there's the Ark. And then later you get into Exodus, there's the Ark of the Covenant. And I'm thinking, I need to do a study because you have an ark here, and this is an ark. There must be some spiritual connection here where God's trying to show us something through these two arks. And I just was banging my head against the theological wall, and there was just nothing came, there were no insights. Well, lo and behold, there are two completely different words in the Hebrew. Noah's Ark is a teva, and the Ark of the Covenant's an aron. They're completely different words. But when you look in the Hebrew dictionary, you find that Noah's Ark, the teva, is found in two places. It's the ark that all the animals and the 8 adults got into and were saved, but it's also the little basket that Jochebed made to put baby Moses in to float him down the Nile. Those are the only two applications of that word teva. Now you connect this huge vessel with this little basket. Both brought salvation. But now you can make a connection that in the English is completely lost. So just being able to know what a Hebrew word is, look it up. You can find how it's used, where it's used, and God can use that then to bring wonderful, rich insights into your Bible study.
Wow. I've used just knowing a few letters so that I can get the words and then follow the words. It's been really, really insightful.
It's very helpful.
Amazing. It's not a thing to intimidate us, especially when we have tools that make it simple like this. The riches that are in front of us, if we go after them, are truly mind-blowing. It just keeps going. I've enjoyed so much the little that I've known and look forward to more. Wish I'd started earlier.
Hasty Hebrew is just a diving board that allows you to go into the deep end of the pool. That's all it is. So.
Good. Well, we need a place to jump in.
It can be fun.
So my encouragement first of all, in the links below or after this or associated with this taping tonight, we're going to have Hasty Hebrew links to the videos that accompany it as well, and probably a link as well to the next resource that you recommend after this for those who want to go further and get more grammar and more background. So thank you for coming.
All right. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So welcome back next week to another Restoring Home. We'll have more discussions about marriage, about parenting, and about faith. And thanks for spending time with us this evening. God bless.